A war between the US and Canada? Over water? Sounds ridiculous, unless you follow the news or have any form of social media. Want to see what might come next? Here's another from my list of lesser-known sci-fi, fantasy, and geek-friendly books featuring distinctly made-in-Canada tropes. We Stand on Guard, by American writer Brian K. Vaughan and Canadian artist Steve Skroce, tells the story of a future war between the United States and Canada, a brutal, high-tech invasion driven by climate change, resource scarcity, and good old-fashioned imperialism. But beneath the battle mechs, drone strikes, and exploding snowmobiles, this comic explores some deeply Canadian sci-fi tropes. It's the year 2124. The US accuses Canada of a terrorist attack on the White House. In response, America launches a full-scale invasion to seize Canada's most precious resource, fresh water. The story follows Amber, a young Canadian who witnesses her parents' death during the invasion, and later joins the 2-4, a scrappy group of Canadian freedom fighters. Sounds like over-the-top sci-fi, right? But if you know your Canadian tropes, it hits way closer to home. Trope 1, resource scarcity and climate wars. Climate change has devastated global water supplies, and Canada, with 20% of the world's freshwater reserves, becomes an irresistible target. And this isn't just sci-fi. In reality, water privatization and cross-border water pipelines have been debated for decades. Trope 2, survival in a harsh environment. The 2-4 fight in the most Canadian battleground imaginable, the Arctic wilderness. They use snow, ice, and terrain to outwit advanced American tech. Canada's harsh climate becomes a tactical advantage. Survival in nature is a classic Canadian sci-fi trope. We don't just write about outer space, we write about wilderness and human endurance. Trope 3, identity, outsiders, and humor. What makes the Canadian rebels different? They don't just fight for survival, they fight to preserve their national identity. The comic plays with Canadian cultural markers, like the 2-4 name, which is a case of beer in Canada. It also uses sarcastic humor and an underdog mindset. This reflects Canada's real-world identity, a country that's always defined itself as not the US, but still deeply tied to American culture. Trope 4, technology, corporations, and power. In We Stand on Guard, the US military uses terrifyingly plausible tech. AI drones, automated mechs, surveillance networks, all controlled by corporate interests. The conflict feels like an extension of present-day military-industrial dynamics. Canadian writers often explore corporate control of innovation, and We Stand on Guard follows suit. We Stand on Guard takes the idea of a US-Canada war and turns it into a smart, gritty, and darkly funny sci-fi epic that taps into classic Canadian storytelling tropes. What do you think? Could we see real water wars in the future? Let me know in the comments.